Hey roamers, it's Jamie back at you, and what we got going today is we have another maintenance issue with the motorhome. Now, this will only happen in motorhomes. It's not going to happen in trailers because trailers don't have the same kind of steps. It's just easier if I show you what's going on. Seems like everything's just working great until we go to close it. So I don't want the neighbors wherever I'm camping to think that I'm firing off a machine gun every time I close my door. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be fixing this issue, and I think I know what the problem is, and I'm going to discuss that in this video. So now I'm under the RV and I'm actually looking at the workings of the step. So what we got here is this is our motor, and this is our gearbox assembly, and then what we have over here is the control unit. This is basically the brains of this is where all the electrical goes into, and then it branches off of here onto the motor. What I think the issue is because of the way it's rattling back and forth, that doesn't sound like an electrical issue to me. What it sounds like is more like maybe gears or what have you. Now I know that there's a gear in here that goes into the gearbox that drives the gear inside here in the gearbox, which drives this little arm back by this. It's pinned here with a clevis pin, and then this little arm pivots back, and that's what draws the step back. So what I believe the issue is there's either a worn out gear in here or a worn out gear in the gearbox. So what I need to do is take it apart, and the first thing we need to do is, because this can go off at any time, if I were to do anything here with the step, I want to unplug at the main hookup for everything that goes from the RV to this control unit. So I'm going to unplug that first, and just a heads up, if you're doing this step, it's a Series 28 Kwikee step. It's a single step. The step needs to be all the way out for you to be able to access anything. Now, if you have a different style step, it may be different. It may be you may need to do it with the step in the middle or something. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug that, and then we'll get started. Okay, so now that we got that unplugged, it's not going to open or close on us. So now what we need to do is unplug the power to the motor. So just want to push down on that and then pull that out. So now the power's unhooked from the motor. So now the next step, we need to take this cotter pin out. So I'm going to take that out. Okay, and we want to save all these pieces because we're going to need them. And then this clevis pin, this basically connects the arm to the step. So I need to take that out. So now that we have the clevis pin out and the step is free, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start removing my motor. So we have these 10mm bolts that have to come out. So we're going to take those 3 bolts out. Okay, so now those are out. And the motor, because it's interlocked with a gear, it was a little bit hard to pull out. So we have the motor off now, and the next step is we got to remove the gear assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and get the right socket for that, and then we'll remove that. So now we need to undo these nuts are 11 millimeter. So we want to go ahead and remove those. Okay, now the gearbox is off. Now that we have it all taken apart, you can see here's the gear, and as this thing draws in and out, the gear goes like that and rides on this gear from the motor, and that's what draws the step in and out. Now that I'm looking at it, I can see here there's teeth missing right here. Looks like about 3. Those are all worn down and gone. That's the reason why it's doing that rattling, because once it gets to that point, there's nothing for this gear to ride on, so it's just kind of spinning. So the gearbox was the issue, so we're going to change that out. And like I said, the motor might have still been good, but I just wanted to, you can see all kinds of shavings in here where those teeth wore off. I just thought it'd be a good idea to change out everything. Now this gear slides off, and it's keyed to this pin here, and there's another pin that goes in there as well, and that, if you were going to keep your original motor, you would want to save all these parts. This pin here that goes into the gear that's in the motor, that goes in that hole inside the gearbox. And what that does, it keeps this in place so it doesn't wobble around in there. It keeps it nice and straight. But the new kit comes with all new parts, so I don't really need to save any of these parts. The other thing is there's 2 washers that go onto the motor before you put your gear on there. So I'm going to get out the new parts, and we'll kind of show everything that comes with the new kit. So here's everything that came in the kit. We got our new motor. It also comes with 3 new bolts, so we're not going to use the original bolts that were on the old motor. So it comes with 3 new bolts for the new motor. Your gearbox assembly comes with that, and then your 2 washers that need to go on the new motor. So here's the gear that goes to the motor, and here's the pin that goes into the top that rides into the gearbox. The other thing that I got is I didn't know if this came with grease on it already. Looks like there's a little bit, but not much. So I bought some white lithium grease. It's made for gears and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and grease that up, and then I'm going to start putting everything back together. So I'm going to go ahead and grease this up. Then we want to take our 2 washers. Those go on the motor. And then our gear goes on there. Then our pin goes in there, like so. And then I'm going to put some grease on the gear in here. Okay, so we have that all greased up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do basically the reverse of what we just did. We're going to be putting the gearbox on, get that mounted, and then once we have the gearbox mounted, then we put the motor on, and then we'll plug everything back in and see what we got. tightening up the nuts on the gearbox, so we're mounting that back to the bottom of the mounting part of the step here. Then before we go and mount the motor, we want to put our clevis pin back in. And we want to put our cotter pin back in. So got that in. We just want to bend it. That way it won't come out. Okay. Now that we have our gearbox assembly all mounted up, next step is putting the motor on. So we just want to slide it up in here. And you may have to wiggle it around a little bit to get the gears to line up. Okay. And then we want to put our bolts in here. And tighten those down. All right. And now we just want to plug our motor back in. Okay, so that's in. And then the last step, we just want to make sure that we're out of the way just in case the step decides to, it should stay open, it should stay forward because I have the door open, but just in case you want to get out of the way in case for some reason it comes back. Now that we've plugged the motor in, we want to go ahead and plug in the main wiring, and we want to stay out of the way just in case. Being that I have my door open, the step should stay open. But just in case, you just want to make sure and stay out of the way. Okay, that's all plugged back in. Once I make sure that everything's working okay, I'm going to take some zip ties and clean this up so it's not hanging down. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test the step. Now the moment of truth. Let's make sure everything's working okay. Listen to that, nice and quiet. That step was looking pretty bad. So to complete this project, I also ordered new step anti-slip tape to freshen up the look of the step. So as you can see, it's working a lot better than it was before. So that's a project all completed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a link in the description for the kit that I had, and that's for a series 28 step. Like I said, if you have that paperwork, you can look up and see what step you have. Or if there's labels on some of the stuff underneath. Unfortunately, my labels were too dirty to figure out what they were. But yours might be clean enough to where you can pull the serial numbers off of there and plug that in as well. But like I said, I'm going to put the link for my unit in the description below. So roamers, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with your friends and family. And if you're not yet a subscriber, make sure and hit that subscribe button and make sure to ring that bell. That way you'll be notified each time we upload a new video. And make sure to leave a comment. That way you could be part of the conversation. Until next time, we'll see you.